Hi, in this step we are going to take your domain name that you registered through GoDaddy and we're going to point that domain to your web hosting provider. Now in my case I use HostGator to host all my websites, and I use GoDaddy to register all my domain names. And the reason I use GoDaddy to register my domain names is that at any given time I can just point GoDaddy's domain names, the domain names that I own, to any web host I want. So if I ever decide I want to change web hosts in the future, rather than have that web hosting provider own and manage, not own, but manage that domain name on my behalf and then have to worry about transferring it, I can just come into GoDaddy and at any given time point it to a different web host. And that's why, even though I don't recommend hosting on GoDaddy, I use their domain registration and domain management tools because they are just, in my opinion, outstanding. So to change your domain, you've registered your domain name at this point and you've set up a hosting account, and at this point you want to just point the domain name to your hosting account so that when you go to the browser and enter your domain name and hit enter, that domain name can find the web host. And so to do that, you'll log into your account at GoDaddy, and when you log into your account, you'll see a screen similar to the one I have. And under here, you'll see domains, web hosting, email, and some other options down here. The only one we're concerned about for our account is domains. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to click on domains, and it'll give you a drop-down box, and depending on how many domain names you have, will appear here. But you should see your domain name that you registered here. In this particular case, I'm going to take marathontrainingclinic.com and I'm going to want to point it to my account on HostGator. So to do that, under the action section, I'll click on the green launch button, and that'll take me to a very busy and noisy window here that it's called their DNS manager. And so in here there's some basic information about the domain, when it was registered and if it's locked and when it expires and renewal and stuff like that. But what we want to do is we want to go down to the name server section. Now name servers is just a web address for a particular server that is hosting your website. And as you can see, there's two name servers listed here in this window. Now domaincontrol.com happens to be GoDaddy's name server name, and what we want to do is change that to point to HostGator's name server, and in particularly the server that they give you in an email. So to do that, I click on the Set Name Servers button, and a pop-up window will pop up to allow you to change that. Now you have some different options here, but the option we are doing whenever we are pointing to a different web hosting provider is to change the name server 1 and name server 2 using I have a specific name servers for my domain option, which in this particular case was the default. So what we want to do is get rid of name server 1 and name server 2, and we want to replace that with the ones that came with our hosting account. Now mine is going to be slightly different than yours because I have a virtual private server, so I have my own name server. What that means is I can host multiple websites on the same server. If you're using a shared hosting account, then they will give you a different name server URL for that particular shared name server. So in my particular case, I would enter run for performance run for performance.com, and then for name server 2 I'm going to enter ns2 at runforperformance.com, and name server 3 and name server 4 we leave blank. Now mine's called runforperformance.com because that's my company name and that's my company web server. In your particular case, it'll be something that HostGator or another web hosting provider has provided you. But that's all there is to it. Now all you'll do is you'll hit OK, and it'll go out and validate it and submit it to then be propagated across the internet, at which point that can take anywhere from a couple of minutes to several hours, even up to 2 days to fully propagate across the internet. Now, since I use HostGator, I notice that these changes propagate very, very fast, and I think that's because HostGator and other web hosting providers like Bluehost are just extremely popular, and GoDaddy has propagates those changes much, much faster to those web hosting providers, but that's just a guess. In like I said, in many cases, I can access the website in anywhere from 5 minutes to a few hours, and then I'm ready to go. So that's all there is to it. Once you set your name servers, then you are done. It's just a waiting game at this point, and then what you'll want to do is go out and enter your URL into a browser, and you'll get a screen. In my case, I get a very ugly looking screen like this because, again, it's a server that I host. If you're using a shared hosting plan, it'll pop up some sort of, this is a future home of whatever your domain name is, and that will give you an idea of when your domain name is completely propagated. And then the next step from here will be to actually set up your web pages themselves, and we'll cover that in a future video.